Good evening, everybody, and welcome to FOJC Radio Sunday Night Live. We are now live on a Sunday night, and I'm here with Brian Reese on our Rumble channel doing Back to the Future Decoded. And I'm so thankful to be able to do this broadcast, Brian. We're going to take a breath. There's so much stress, there's so much anger, so much fear. And we're just going to take a breath and just kind of, in Psalm chapter 2 and verse 4, it says, "He that sitteth in the heavens shall laugh. The Lord shall have them in derision." And they're so smart, they want to do so much, but it's not going to turn out the way they think. And tonight we're going to be dealing with predictive programming with one of the great classic movies of all time. I bet everybody has seen this movie, and we're going to be looking at some of the predictive programming in it. Brian has just done a great job, so I'm looking forward to this, Brian.
Yeah, David, thank you for having me on. Thank you for letting me be part of this. Back to the Future Decoded, folks, and we're coming in at 88 miles an hour, maybe 89, maybe. And I've got a DeLorean in the barn find in Kentucky, and I'm going to restore it so me and David can go back to 1955 and maybe 1985 in those 30-year increments. But yeah, folks, welcome to the broadcast tonight. Visual disturbance in the house. Welcome to Back to the Future Decoded. Check all the links in the description. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. Subscribe to the Visual Disturbance channel if you get an opportunity. I'd like to have you in the Visual Disturbance community. But bless all you all, and thank you, David. And here we are, my friend, Back to the Future Decoded.
All right. Well, let's get back to the future. Let's rock it.
So, everybody, this is probably like a classic, and as of tonight, we probably will run it. I think when we went with the Atlantis Trilogy, I think a lot of people in the audience have watched Wizard of Oz, the 1939 classic. With that, they probably watched it 10,000 times. In the Back to the Future, you probably watched it 1,000 times. That's including myself. But we're probably going to run some stuff tonight, but we're going to expose all this subliminal messaging. So hang on to your seat, folks. We got a lot to show tonight. We might have to do a part 2, part 3, part 4. What do you think, David?
Well, hey, I got pull here. We can do what we want.
All right, folks. So let me pull up the slide here. So the first slide here, I'm going to be going back and forth. Me and Brother David did the Atlantis Trilogy. We talked about the water canopy, the vapor, right? So as we have here, we have Universal Studios, and I know Brother David here and John Pellers have did a midnight ride not too long ago with the different. I think Brother Adam was bringing it to y'all's attention, where there's so many different variations of the Universal Studios. So you see a slide on the slide on here on the screen. Universal Studios, MCA company. So this is the very first, it's not the very first screen. I want to point something out. There's an Orion constellation. You'll briefly miss it, but we're going to talk about the Universal. I'm going to tie it all in together with the constellation standpoint. But you got these two rings, and I told David off air that it looks like the Vestiges of Pisces, and also looks like Saturn's rings, which we talked about the misread record in the Atlantis Trilogy, and we talked about the Emerald City, the Emerald Tablets with the Wizard of Oz. So isn't it kind of interesting, David, that Universal Studios used this? What do you think about this?
Well, and it's almost a back to the future snapshot of what the Earth, of course, they got the globe there, but it's like a snapshot of what the Earth would have looked like in the antediluvian world, as we've talked about before, when there were the water canopy, as we talked about in the works of Isaac Newton Vail. And you can even see there to the left, you can even see like a dome, and you can see like water above it. Just, it's almost like they're saying, okay, yeah, we know what it's really like here. And it is very significant that the constellation Orion is pictured, because in the antediluvian world, and this is one of the basic occult concepts, is that the great building projects, the pyramids, the great megalithic structures that we see, that they were conducted when the heavenly luminaries were just in the precise time and place, as above, so below. And this was echoed by Madame Blavatsky in her Secret Doctrine. This is volume 1, page 434. She said, the mighty ones, that's the giants, perform their great works and leave behind them everlasting monuments to commemorate their visit every time they penetrate within our maiacic veil, the atmosphere, says a commentary. Thus, we are taught that the great pyramids were built under their direct supervision when the then pole star was at its lowest culmination, and the Criticaea Pleiades looked over his head, were on the same meridian but above to watch the work of the great giants. So the significance of Orion there, Orion, one of the most significant of the heavenly luminaries, the alignment with the Great Pyramid, what they're saying is, yeah, it's time to build. And they do have a plan. They do have a program. And all of these elites, they like to take their symbols and do what we would call predictive programming. And they're literally showing us what they're doing. And it speaks to us of the antediluvian world. It speaks to us as their green light. Yeah, the as above is fine. It's time to roll this agenda.
I totally agree, David. Speaking of the Orion, I think I'm going to show it. I think I'm going to go ahead and just show a small inkling of the first 3 or 4 seconds of the movie, so I can kind of tie in the next slide.
You go for it.
And we're going to knock this out. One moment, folks. So, folks, I'm getting ready to show literally, there's not going to be any sound. We're treading the line tonight. We're treading the line. Okay, we're going where no man has gone, but no, I'm just kidding. We might be going back to the future before this broadcast is over with, but I'm treading the line when it comes into copyright narratives. So hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hopefully everything will work out. But I'm going to play the first few seconds before we get to the Universal Studios. It's going to come up really quick, folks, so watch this. Basically, it'll give you perception. It'll pull you in. It's going to zoom in. It's going to zoom on the globe Earth with the 2 rings. Watch this. And as you can tell, it's like 3 or 4 seconds in. There it is. So if you can see, well, there we go. It's pulling you in. So here we go. We got the Orion. We got the constellations. We're going to be talking about dog constellation. Yes, folks, I said dog constellations. We're going to be touching base on some topics I brought up in the Atlantis Trilogy. But yeah, it zooms in. It takes you into the Universal. I'm trying not to show it too much, but it takes you in, and then all of a sudden you go and the constellations start to dissipate, and then boom, there you go. There's the globe, and then it starts transitioning back. So I just want to show you. What do you think about that, Brother David?
Yeah, it's amazing the appreciation they have for detail, and they love doing this stuff. They love putting little messages in there that the average person won't understand, but the initiated elite, they understand. And these things truly they're just certain movies that are just packed with stuff. Mm-hmm. And this certainly is one. And we know everybody knows that if there is an insider, Mr. Spielberg certainly is one.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that one, let's get back into the slide here. So, showing the constellations, does anybody realize that the constellation, there's supposedly 88, right? There's supposed to be 88 constellations, supposedly, officially. And like I just showed at the beginning of the broadcast there, we was talking about the Orion constellation. So, here we are with the Orion's belt and everything, and David was talking about that previously, but 88 constellations. Can anybody believe that, folks? I mean, 88 constellation, here we are with the numerology. I don't get into gematria. What do you think, David? I mean, I don't believe in it. There is a significance to it. There's a cultic, esoteric meaning behind it. I agree. What do you think?
There's a gematria that is a cult, and there's also symbolism attached to numbers within Scripture. Mr. Bullinger wrote a book on number and Scripture that gives us a pretty good understanding of the significance of numbers. And we know the number 3, the number 7 are very significant, the number 40, and number 8 is the number of new beginnings
Mm-hmm.
in Scripture. And here we see already we have, well, we're going to build. This is our time to build. The heavens are aligned. And 88, which plays significantly in this Back to the Future movie, it's the new beginning. This is their agenda they're launching.
Yeah, absolutely, David. And I mean, it's referenced so many times in all three films. We're going to touch base on all three films. We're going to be kind of going back and forth, but we're just slowly introducing the first film here. So the next slide, everybody remembers the most iconic area, the Jason, well, I'm not going to say that. There's a mall parking lot where Dr. Brown, Emmett Brown, goes to test his lovely RC DeLorean because it's remote control. He uses a remote control DeLorean. But as you can see on the screen here, we have there's significances here, right? So when you're going up, it's called the Twin Pines Mall. So the Twin Pines Mall, as you can see, there's two trees. Well, you see 1:16 a.m. So folks, what do you all resonate with? Comment in the chat. Comment in the chat. When it's inverted, it's 911, right? But you have there's symbolism here for two pine trees. Okay, what do you think, David? There's significance here. We're going to be talking about 9/11. What do you think, David?
Well, it's hard to miss, and but of course it's there. It's upside down, and as above, so below. And in Eliphas Levi's sigil of he called it Black Jehovah, White Jehovah. It saw in the top, there was like a Ancient of Days, godly looking figure. And below, the reflection was that of a devil. In the Washington Monument, we have the obelisk, then we have the reflecting pool. The same thing in the Pyramid of the Sun down there in Mexico. The reflecting pool is a big part of it. And here we see the inverse. And of course, the Twin Towers. And we did an entire broadcast on 9/11. And the two towers are heavy in symbology in the occult world. And it goes back. Back as far as symbols meant anything. The idea of the gates and the opening, the portals. We've got it in Freemasonry, the Jachin and Boaz. And flipping this thing upside down and seeing the two Twin Towers and the 9/11, I mean, really? Golly.
Yeah, and what's so crazy about it, when you're watching the film, it'll actually kind of zoom in to the left a little bit. Marty's sitting beside it. He's kind of leaning up. He's observing, right? He's watching. He's watching what Dr. Emmett Brown is doing. He's like, what is he doing? He told me to be here. I think during the film he says be there by 1:30 or something like that. We'll get into it a little bit, but he's there early. He's observing, and lo and behold, it had to be 1:16, right? And then there's the inversion. There's a lot of weird things here, folks. A lot of weird connecting the dots, and we're just not even touching the surface. We're just getting the crumbs off the plate. But yeah, David, there's a lot of 9/11 symbolism. And when speaking of JFK on November the 19th for our broadcast, me and you're going to do together, if I remember correctly, during this experiment in this mall parking lot, I'm pretty sure there was JFK references. I'm pretty sure that Doc Emmett Brown says to Marty, they talk about JFK. So there's always this symbolism of JFK. It's just there has to be a tie to that. We'll have to talk about that on our JFK broadcast. But all the 9/11 stuff, and here in a minute, here's a good one. So the next slide, right? So here Doc is getting ready to do an experiment. I'm going to skip that one slide, David, on the about the van and the intruders. I'm going to skip to number 7. So whenever Doc is doing this experiment, right, he uses the dog. He uses Einstein, right? Einstein to do this experiment. He uses Einstein. So he synchronizes these two stopwatches. One's around the neck of the dog. One's around the neck of Emmett Brown. Well, here's where it gets really strange. So they never specify what time they do, like what time so it's in 1985 in the parking lot. From my understanding, he's using this dog for an experiment to skip 1 minute ahead in 1985. So he doesn't go back. He's basically just skipping across the parking lot pretty much in a minute's time. Well, Einstein here we go. We have this dog symbolism. Once again, the dog is watching, like Toto off of Wizard of Oz. He's observing. The dog is the companion to Emmett Brown. He doesn't see, he's not scared, he's not panicky, he's like, oh, let's just get in the DeLorean. So he gets in the driver's seat. Doc has a remote control, and lo and behold, if you've seen the intro of the show, you see him skipping across in the parking lot, and there's a minute delay. So I'll show you the stopwatches here. So the stopwatches are at 1:19. So here we go. We got the 9/11 symbolism again. So here, it's a 9/11. It's just inverted. Okay, it's reversed. Okay, so whenever Doc, he's like, "Watch out, Marty!" And here comes the blue light. Right, you get the blue again. We get the blue symbolism. So you get the blue. The DeLorean is flying across the parking lot. He's like, "Watch out, Marty!" And they grab him. And he moves him away, and then there's Einstein. Just, lo and behold, he's all happy, and there's nothing wrong with him. But I want to point something out, David. It's ice. The car is like covered in ice. And Doc Brown has choice words, and he says something. He's like, it's so cold, I can't even open it. He uses his foot to, move the door handle up so he can get to Einstein. So what's your take on that, David? Because here's one... Kind of speaking of the UFO stuff and everything, the gamma radiation, what is your take on what they are trying to present here? Because if you look, it's very significant because the very first time that they go in, basically forward in time on this film, and there's just so much ice all over the car. But some of the other films, Back to the Future 2, Back to the Future 3, he'll jump in and out of time and there's not ice on it. I thought it was interesting. It's only in this first film that they put so much emphasis on the ice. So what's your take on that, David? And the blue symbolism too. So there you go. Yeah. The blue and the lightning.
Well, if we just kind of think about what we got so far, we have repeated 9/11 symbolism. We've got the Twin Towers. Then we have the Muslims show up. And I mean, is this just all coincidence? After a while, it gets hard to believe. Now we have doubled down 9/11 symbolism, and Einstein's the dog. Well, something I have become thoroughly convinced about here in the last year is that there is an initiated scientific and medical elite that knows that Einstein physics is a fraud, that the real physics that they're using to do that which they are, we could call it scalar physics, we could call it Tesla physics. It's based upon the understanding of the aether. Now, Einstein, they believed that space was an unending vacuum forever and ever and ever. And that just, they know that's a lie. That's what they're going to feed to people in schools, but they know better. And it's like Einstein's the dog. And I just wonder, he comes back so cold, he goes through the portal. Could that be pointing us toward Antarctica?
Absolutely, David. I mean, that's a good point, man. I never really thought about that, but I'm 100% behind you on this. And see, here's a connection. We're probably going to do this in the future, but me and you talked about it personally, face to face, drinking coffee. Think about the Philadelphia experiment. Yeah. We're skipping across the mall parking lot, the Twin Pines Mall, a minute ahead. What did they do at the Philadelphia experiment? They skipped across the water to divert the enemy as far as radar detecting, right? That's so they say. So there's that Nikola Tesla connection. So we're going to be talking, I mean, there's some, we got a lot to jam-packed in this program, but there's that Philadelphia experiment. There's that skipping across 1 minute in time. He's doing the experiment. There's the ice. Where did he go? I mean, he said, I remember Dr. Emmett Brown's like, it's spontaneous. He didn't even know what happened to him. Come on. And then
and the Nazis developed, as we know, we've talked about this a lot, and they developed their scientific achievements through reading the Vedas. Oppenheimer and their scientists, they used the principles in the Vedas that they talked about, the prana, which Tesla called it the aether. And Einstein's the dog, and of course, where did they go to? They went to South America.
Mm-hmm.
So here he comes through Einstein's the dog, and they're coming out with this big breakthrough covered with ice. Well, could they be telling us a story?
Absolutely. Well, and then to throw us in here, so there's the plutonium. There's an ancient symbol, the nuclear symbol, right? So we can tie this all back. I've touched base on it probably years ago, but, you know, when I was just doing my own research, before I even did any of this YouTube stuff or anything like that and being on air, but there's a tie to the fallen angel narrative with that symbol, right, David? I mean, there's that nuclear symbol, and then you see Doc have it on his back, right? He's wearing this white jumpsuit with the nuclear symbol, and he's wearing a suit because he's got the plutonium, and he steals the plutonium from the terrorist, right? So the next slide, I'm going back a little bit. The Muslim terrorists are coming, and they're out for blood, right? They're gonna take out Emmett Brown, and Marty's there. So here you go. You got the Twin Pines Mall. You got the Muslim terrorist. That's what the movie is depicting, and he's got a rocket launcher, machine gun, all this stuff, right? So artillery. He's going full blown Rambo, and Marty panics. Doc gets shot. Marty jumps into the DeLorean, and he skips across the parking lot. So the kid doesn't know what he's doing. All he knows is he, briefly got the opportunity for Doc to show him how to engage the time machine, right? So then here's the coincidence. So he doesn't really know that Doc already, popped it in the longitude latitude for time travel. Like he's going to go to November the 5th, 1955. So it's in 1985. So here we go. We have this 30 year reference. Like I said at the beginning of the broadcast. So he's going to go 30 years back in time to 1955 in November. And when he's in the parking lot, he's trying to drive and divert, and he's swooping in and out, right? He's swooping in and out. So I could show it, but right now I'm too tuned in here. I would show some more clips to the film, but as he's changing gears and trying to go and he's turning, you can see the speedometer, and it says the odometer reading has like 3266, and there's like this skull and bones reference, and it comes back, and it's like, okay, so it influxes and then it defluxes. So the film, whoever did that, it's higher the first scene, and then it goes back. He's trying to change gears and go back around in another curve, and then it decreases. And there's symbolism, there's numerology all over this before he even goes 88 miles an hour. And guess what? There's a photo booth, right? Here comes the photo booth. The terrorists are after him. They want revenge because of the plutonium, and Doc mocks him because I think he builds a pinball machine and they thought it was something else. And so here comes the photo. It's a photo booth. It's a photo booth. A lot of people think it's just like I remember somebody thought it was a telephone booth or whatnot, references to like time travel, the Bill and Ted Adventures, all that, but it was a photo booth. So basically, let's just face it here. Before he gets to that photo booth, he vanishes. 88 miles an hour. There goes the Muslims. The Muslims hit the photo booth. They flip upside down, and then all of a sudden, lo and behold, 1955 Marty is in a barn. And you just can't make this stuff up, David. I mean, it's pretty baffling.
Yeah, it's amazing, no doubt about it.
So I want to go back to the Einstein. So I agree with you, David. The whole Einstein, E equals MC squared. I've read some of Einstein's journals. He literally, come on, folks, he literally says it was imaginary. A lot of the stuff that he just come up with in his mind, he was saying that it was all imaginary. He was just making up stuff. Like it was just make-believe stuff. So, and then some of it was true, but a lot of it wasn't. It's just a Bill Nye the Science Guy back in the day, in my opinion.
Yeah,
so
it's theory.
Yeah.
It's absolutely that. It's theory that is totally unproven. And a lot of people, when we read these scientists, and we think, boy, they know so much, but a lot of times, boy, they don't.
Absolutely. They don't. Yeah. So Einstein, right? I made a connection with the Toto in Wizard of Oz. He's a watcher. I think it's the same thing. So star. So guess what, folks? Einstein, right? We've talked about him going back in time or going in the future, a minute in the future. So the Canis Major constellation, aka greater dog. Okay, greater dog. Let me pull that, see if I can get that to go up a little bit better on the screen there. The G's a little bit covered there, forgive me folks, but it's a little offset. But yeah, it says greater dog, aka the greater dog. That means it's in Latin, it means aka the greater dog. So isn't that interesting? Here we go again. We have a constellation. We have the 88 constellations. We have the Canis Major constellation, aka the greater dog, right? So is there some kind of correlation? What is that, right? So it gets even crazier. But I'm going to stop here for a little bit. And what's your comment on this, David? How do you feel about this? Because the Vedas and all these, the esoteric understanding, what do you think? And, where are they taking us as far as, the television, he's talking about this, the Technicolor that we talked about in the 1939 film with Wizard of Oz, from black and white imagery to color, the Technicolor, the imagery. Remember that video I played it toward the end, and it showed they're like transcending, like this color transition. So what do you think, Dave? I mean, what are we doing here? It's baffling, really. But what do you think?
Well, the concept we would have here, and we talked about this in The Wizard of Oz with the little Toto, he's watching. He's the watching. And in all of these movies, we have the watchers. In the Friends series, we had the little bald-headed guys that would show up and just watch. They weren't to interfere. And the whole idea portrayed here, well, the constellations are just right, and we have the constellations watching over this great work. That's the concept here. And there's always, in all of these characters, broadcasts like they put out, they have this watcher character in there.
Yeah, absolutely. I was trying to move it over a little bit for everybody there. I don't know if but yeah, so it's, here we go again. We have the Orion connection. So what does the Orion have to do with this? So, like I said earlier, when I had the constellation, let me see, I have it up here somewhere. I've lost my slide here. That's okay though. There's a correlation with the Orion and there's two dogs in the film. We haven't got to the dog yet with the other dog. We got Einstein, the very first one that they introduced for the Back to the Future #1 movie, but there's a second dog, right? And I think I'm gonna hold off to talk about him for a while, or if you think we should just go ahead and knock it out, David. What do you think?
Whatever you think. And Orion, what symbolized Nimrod. And of course, Nimrod was the builder, and he was the builder of Babel. He was the first one to try to initiate the New World Order after the flood. So that's loaded with symbolism there. And in the book of Job, we have read many times that can you bind the Pleiades and loose the bands of Orion? And this is one of their big things. They're coming at us underneath their heavenly alignment, implementing their program. And the Bible tells us that, yes, we can pray and we can be effective against that. And, it's like they think that they are so elite and so secret. Well, they're not. We can figure this stuff out. Even we can do it. It's so plain. But it's all about implementing their agenda. And it's the Antichrist agenda. And it's built under their heavenly alignment with the help of the Nephilim. And, of course, their great hero is Nimrod.
Absolutely. Well, we'll just go ahead and talk about you got Copernicus, the other dog. This dog's, he starts, I think his debut is in Back to the Future 3. We're gonna be swinging back and forth, folks, from 1, 2, and 3, so just stay with us here. I apologize if it's a little scattered there, but Copernicus is small. He's a lot smaller than Einstein, right? So, like I said earlier, you have Einstein, you have this Canis Major constellation, aka the greater dog. He was the greater dog. He went through the time skip dilation, experiment. So we have Copernicus. Copernicus is in the he's actually, his time in the film would be in 1885. And, excuse me, not 1885, but 1955. Forgive me. Well, guess what, folks? He's the Canis Minor constellation. He's a small dog. He's lesser. So on the side of the slide here, it shows Orion on the right. Well, the Canis Minor is on the little dog is on the left, and then on the bottom there it's Canis Major, the big dog. So they work together with Orion. Isn't that crazy, David? I mean, that's pretty bizarre. I mean, when you really pull it all together, and there's so much subliminal messaging in this film, right? So what do you think about this? What do you think about little Copernicus here? I mean, it's
think about what Copernicus did. He developed the heliocentric concept of cosmology, which is a total lie. So here we've got Einstein's a dog, Copernicus is a dog. They're telling us we know this isn't true.
Yeah.
We know that, these are dogs, they're liars. But hey, we're building anyway, and they're building on a total new set of physics and understanding of how our world is. But yeah, I think that says a lot. That Einstein and Copernicus, they're dogs. Yeah, they're dogs. They're liars, and they know it. They're liars and frauds.
Well, what would you say? Do you think that Marty would be depicted as Orion or Doc Brown? Because we're looking at the Copernicus, we're looking at Einstein. What do you think Steven Spielberg, and there's another gentleman we're going to be referring to also that was in this film and directed this film. What do you think there, David? Do you think there's some kind of correlation? We got the greater dog, the larger dog, the smaller dog. Do you think Emmett Brown would be considered Orion, Nimrod? Think about it for a minute. The Gilberim, he become a Gilberim.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just,
and like he's the big guy, and you got to have the cooperation. Mm-hmm. You got to have little guys cooperating with the big guys. So that could very well, that does make some sense, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, before we get out of the parking lot, right, because we're going to be going to the second film. So Copernicus, this slide here, it says Copernicus has got a light on his head. So basically they're going they're trying to find the DeLorean that Emmett Brown, we'll talk about that here after a while, or maybe on the second one we do. Copernicus is leading Marty and Doc to 1885 burial site. They did, so it's been 70 years, I think it's 70 something plus years. The 1885 to 1955, they're trying. Copernicus is on he's leading the two men. He's leading them to the DeLorean. So I wanted to kind of pull that all in and make sense. There's so many correlations to this stuff. I mean, you just can't make this stuff up. So here's something I'm gonna skip. Well, I'm gonna skip 14 real quick, David. The twin one and then the other the split there with the lone. But well, we'll just go to it. Why not? Let's go to 14. So here we go. We got more symbolism. So we already looked at the 9/11 decoding of the stopwatches, the referencing to the encoding or the reversal, the inverted 9/11 connection with the Twin Pine Mall. So check this out, folks. There's twin, and then later on, when the time, everything gets changed because all the paradox that Marty does and changes the fabric of time with beating up Biff, which we're going to be talking about that character here after a while, who we think that character depicts in a real live political leader. The Lone Pine. So you have the Lone Pine. It's so we have, once again, we have Twin Towers. We have the One World Trade Center now. So what do you think, David? There's that tie into the 9/11 significance to that. What do you think? It's crazy.
Well, and when I see this, and it's just like the you've got the JFK, you've got the 9/11. All of these were carried about by the same basic core group of people with the same core agenda, and they operated under the same principles. All of these are interrelated. And when I see Lone and the One Tower, I think of Lone Gunman. That's what I think of, the Lone Gunman, which, of course, that was the mantra. Everything in the JFK assassination showed that was an obvious lie, but Lone Gunman, that's what we heard, and that's what they tried to sell people.
Wow. Yeah, so there's another part. I think it's in Back to the Future 2. So here we are. We have this picture. It's futuristic time. Marty's parents are older. So here's where the mic drops here. We have the two pines on the screen there, the movie projector. But as you can see here in the slide, we have feet up in the air. we got feet. The apparently Marty's father had an accident. His back was broke or something, and he has to live in this hovering craft thing that he has some type of disability. So I wouldn't want to be upside down all my life. But anyways, the blood go to his head on that one. So we have this projector with the two points. So you have these two trees. Here we go again. Like you mentioned earlier with the Masonic and in the portal. So, but if you look very carefully on this scene here, the mother is pushing the remote, and if you look there at the bottom, well, I want to throw this out here real quick too. So the daughter there, I don't know if you know this or not, Brother David, but the daughter, I'm not making this up. Michael J. Fox plays her. I'm not making that up.
Really?
I didn't know if you knew that.
I did not know that.
Yeah, there you go. So, yeah. But anyways, you see the torch. It looks like, so we have the twin trees there on the projector. We have a torch. Look at the very bottom of that screen. So that projector starts moving. There's this transition phase. So you see the Twin Towers on the movie screen, David. You can't make it up. So if you look at this, I seen this film or this video that did a really good depicting. I mean, they did this like 9 years ago. So if you look at it, and the gentleman, Marty McFly's father, is upside down. He would, when they're playing this film, it has the film that's like, it's kind of moving back and scrolling up and down. So he's basically seeing footage. It looks like the World Trade Center is actually falling on the screen. So he's looking at it as like when it's scrolling down that the Twin Towers are crashing. And there's so much here, David. I mean, my goodness, you can't make this stuff up. And then keep an eye on the torch. Keep an eye on the torch, folks, because we're going to be really connecting all the dots with these slides. We're going to be talking about the connection with the Greek mythology and all this stuff. So it's significant. It's looking at, and one thing to throw out here too, we have the New York connection. We have the Statue of Liberty with the torch. It's telling you that the movie screen there, and the woman's pushing the remote, and they're scrolling through channels. It's showing you New York. And this is in 88. I think the film and the second film came out in 1988, if I'm not mistaken, or 1989. Forgive me, I don't have it corrected, but I think it's around that time frame. So what do you think, David? I mean, they're literally showing you. I mean, this is just...
Yeah, it's amazing. And the old Led Zeppelin song, Hangman, it was on the album where they did Stairway to Heaven, I think. But anyway, the tarot card, the Hangman, he's upside down with one foot stuck up and the other one arched into his body. Mm. And on our 9/11 show, we saw that famous picture of the guy that jumped, and as he was coming down, it was absolutely making the shape of the hangman. How to explain that, I don't know, but that's what it was. That's that occult symbolism. It's just mind-boggling to look at. And here again, we have this upside-down person, the Twin Towers symbology, and of course that hangman. That means you're dead. We're coming to get you. Obviously,
I didn't even think about that whenever I was putting this presentation together. That's baffling. So he's hanging. Literally, that's a hangman. There you go, David. I mean, my goodness, you can't make this stuff up. I mean, and then we'll switch back a little bit to that first slide there with the Marty's mother pushing the button with the remote. So there's those two pillars, and there's this. So just think about this for a minute. I'm going to kind of go down a rabbit hole, but you have that fountain in the middle. You have the fountain. You have the two trees. You have the fountain. There's symbolism there with the circle. We're going to talk about CERN. There's the water, the stoichioon, the elements. There's just so much stuff. And if you look, you can briefly see it. There's a lion. When she's it's the lion's in the right-hand corner, and it's got its back turned. It's looking at something. It's looking through it. I mean, David, this stuff is just mind-boggling, really. Mind-boggling stuff.
Yeah, it is indeed, my friend. It is indeed.
So we're going to switch back and go back to the Future 1. So Marty, has this newspaper clipping, right? And I think I might have missed one slide, David. I sure did. There's a slide that I missed. No, I didn't. I'm going to skip a few here. I got my order. Forgive me. Save the Clock Tower. He gets this newspaper clipping. This is 1985. He's with his girlfriend. And as you can see up at the very top of the slide, you see the clock. It's been stopped. It's been shocked since 1955. It's literally have not been in operation for 30 years. So we're looking at a time frame in 1985. 1955, we had something happen. So during that scene, I think if I'm not mistaken, she writes her phone number on the back. He puts that in his back pocket. But who gives that to him is this lady. There's this lady with the, so basically in the background, it says the third, this is in the town. This is in the town. It has the third eye. You can see I kind of zoomed out and made sure that everybody understands. It's an all-seeing eye, the eye of providence. And it says save the clock tower on the can. So she's literally asking for donations to get the clock tower fired back up. But here we go. We have an eye, we have a cultic, we have an eye, the all-seeing eye right there in the background, and she's shaking her can. If you remember, she shakes it it a few times, and she's like, there's this tie. It's just insanity. What's your comments on this slide? It's unbelievable, David.
Yeah, it is something, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, so he puts that in the back of his pocket. So he knows when he goes to 1955, because he's in the parking lot at the Twin Pine Mall, he knows when he's like, Doc, because he's trying to explain to him that, Doc, I'm from the future, Well, what's so bizarre about it? He's like, I got it in my pocket. And then he's like talking about these 13 gigawatts or however it would take to be able to harness enough electricity to get to that plutonium. So the plutonium that he stole from the terrorists to get enough bump to move through time, so to speak. So he was like, the only thing it could be a bolt of lightning, right? He kept saying, he's like putting so much emphasis, a bolt of lightning, right? So what happens in the bolt of lightning days, right? So we look at the clock here when we go back to save the clock tower. That clock was struck at a particular time. On that day, in 1955, at approximately 10 what? So here we go. We have 10:04. And in 1985, it's frozen, so they're trying to renovate and get money to fund it to change it. So what happened on that day when Marty wanted that he went back to the future in 1980, because it was 1955 when that struck, the lightning struck. He didn't even know it. So he's sitting there with his girlfriend, and to go down the rabbit hole together here, the paradox of intertwining, I guess if you want to get into quantum physics, he basically is responsible or took part in something that he didn't even know he was aware of. So here you go, that third eye, the eye of providence in the background, and there's like some kind of demented tie to all this. But I'm going to kind of touch base to when the Back to the Future, toward the end of the flick. So there's this, a lot of people don't know this, but after the lightning strikes the clock tower, it gets struck at 10:04 that night in 1955. As you can see, David, we have, once again, a ties back to 9/11 symbolism. You have the Western audio neon light on the left. It's got a 9. You can't make this stuff up. It's an arrow. So here you go. We have Orion. We have the bow, right? The bow and the arrow. David, I mean, come on. It's insane. So if you look, the lightning bolt, the line that got caught on fire, look in the middle of the screen. It has 2 flame streaks from the DeLorean, from the tires and the asphalt and everything, and then the speed and going back in time. He misses. There's a facility there that's like it's a theater. He just vanishes, right? But if you look, here's where it gets really interesting, David. If you look on the right, there's a telephone pole or a light pole. What do you see on the right? You see a flame, right? You see a flame. And I was talking to you at the beginning of the broadcast about there was a Diane worship, but Diana worship to this,
Uh-huh.
right? So I couldn't help but have to bring this up in the program. So Doc, during this part of the flick, he's like, yeah, he starts screaming. He looks up and he sees the clock towers at 10:04. The lightning and the storm moves away, and he sees that torch. He's literally holding his hand up like this, David. And he's going through the flames. And there's no reason why he should have been doing that. He had this torch, and he's like an invisible torch. And he's like screaming, yes, I did it. We did it. Well, I mentioned at the beginning of the program, before we did it, I think I pronounced it correctly, Nemuralia. Nemuralia ties back to Diana worship. So what they would do during that ritual, so to speak, is a festival of torches, right? So what was so bizarre about it? I had to bring this up for the program. There's ties to celestial. We're talking about cosmological connections with heavenly, like the nature of a goddess, of invoking heavenly, the dog star Sirius. Like it literally is in that when you're doing the running with the torch, and then the ties with the Statue of Liberty and the New York connection. But then here we are blatantly in front of us with the 9/11 connection. And this means this dog star Sirius is earthly and underworld imagery. It's showing there's this spear, like they have this ritual, this festival of polishing spears, and there's no hunting that's allowed during this festival. So if we want to piggyback and talk about the dog that I was referring to earlier with the Canis minor and the Canis major, guess what the Canis minor, guess what it means? Like I said, lesser dog, but it represents smaller, means Orion. It's of Orion's 2 hunting dogs. So along with a larger neighbor would be, we touched base on Canis major. So there's hunting dogs, like Orion's hunting dogs. But going back in this weird stuff that Steven Spielberg has presented here, we got Doc Brown running with the torch, and it's Diana worship. I mean, David, it's just blowing my mind, man. You can't make this stuff up, and so during that festival, you can't do any dog. There's like I mentioned a minute ago, but they're polishing spears and doing all these different things for Diana. So here we go again, 9/11, and all. There's just just on this one slide alone, we can sit there all day. And then I got a little bit of different slide. The giant, it's a burning. It's just, what do you think, David? What do you think? What's your take on this?
Well, it's hard to just dismiss it as coincidence. And of course, in the scripture, Nimrod was the great hunter, and Diana is the goddess of the hunt. She was the goddess of the hunt. And there you go. And of course, what are they hunting? He was hunting souls, and he was hunting mankind to bring in his new world order. And, a lot of people think that it would be impossible for these people to have known and planned these things so far ahead. And last night on the Midnight Ride, we were reading the letter from Albert Pike to Giuseppe Mazzini, 1871, where they outlined 3 world wars in 1871. And we're in the midst of the start of the 3rd one right now. And these people are very deliberate. They carry on this work over thousands of years. They plan meticulously, and they show what they do in symbolism. And, Jesus said there's nothing hid that will not be revealed. And I think there's a spiritual law that these people operate under. I don't even know if they know that, but this is the whole thing about symbolism, that they do things in such a way to where they're initiated will understand, but they hope the masses won't. But, well, a few people are figuring it out. But I have no problem believing that these people are so meticulous in their agenda that they would plan these things in advance this far. And you just can't miss all of these things. They line up and the dots connect, and we see a consistent symbolic picture from all of these things. We sure do.
Well, I want to throw this out here real quick. In the 1984 film Terminator, at the beginning of that film, it zooms in and it's Orion. It zooms in, it shows Orion, David. I'm not making this up. So we have the 1984. We could go down a big old rabbit hole with that, but that's not for the program tonight. But 1984 Orion, I think it's called Orion Productions, and then you have this 1985. I mean, a lot of things went down in the 1980s. I'm just saying, a lot of things went down. A lot of things went down in the 50s. I mean, you just in this next part of the program tonight, this is where the rubber and the 88 miles an hour, your whole rim comes off the back of the axle. So David, not only did Steven Spielberg do all this stuff, there was another gentleman that I was referring to earlier. I'm going to bring his name up here. We got Robert Zemeckis. Robert Zemeckis he did a lot of stuff in the 80s. Robert Zemeckis did a lot of stuff in the 2000s. He's still doing stuff. He's still doing a lot of movies he's done. We are going to talk about a movie. You just can't make this stuff up. That he did back in October of 2015. Not only did he take responsibility, and he, Steven Spielberg and him working together to doing this 1985 film, and Back to the Future 2 and 3, they was working together. Isn't it strange, David, that I'm getting ready to pull some dates? So we have this 30-year gap again. There's a 1985 significance. I'm going to go back to the slide real quick. Marty is begging before the lightning strikes. He's begging Doc to take this note. He writes this note. He says, "You'll find out in 30 years. You'll find out in 30 years." And it's 1955 when he's saying that. There's the lightning striking the clock tower. He's like, "You'll find out." "No, you're going to change you can't change the fabric of time. I don't want to know what the future holds." He said it'll, basically a ripple in time, a different timeline. So 1985, and if you go and say, okay, 1985 to 2015, how many years is that, David?
That's 30 years, isn't it?
30 years, yes, sir. So our boy here, doing a little Kentucky flavor there, Robert Zemeckis makes a film, no joke, that came out in October of 2015. David, you said you watched this film. This October 20, that's literally the time, I'll specify, October the 21st on the dial. It was October 21st, 2015, when they supposedly went back into the future. To say, this is in Back to the Future 2 narrative and the plot for that, when they was trying to save the kids and all this, Marty's kids and his wife. And Doc was really like, hey, you got to do something about your children. So it was 2015. October the 21st, 2015. So ironically, in real life, not just movie theater here in Hollywood, but this did come out, and it was fully released and everything. They had soft openings and stuff in the September month, but in October the 9th, 2015, this film was fully released to the United States. So what do you think, David? Because I know that you watched this film. I've only watched clips of it. What do you remember about this film called The Walk?
Well, not a whole lot, really.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, I do remember watching it. I don't remember a lot of details, and it was about this guy walking between these buildings on a high wire, and it was a true story. And the very context of what it's showing us in Back to the Future, Emmett Brown is planning for something 30 years down the road. Mm-hmm. That's the whole thing. Well, we're making long-range plans here. Mm-hmm. And the very character, you'll find out in 30 years, mm-hmm. It shows their very determined long-range agenda.
Mm. So you have 30. So we have the 1955 to 1985, and then you have the 1985 to 2015. There's that 30-year increments. And my goodness. So this film, the character here that's played here is by, I think it's the name of the actor is called Joseph Levitt, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. He is going on a wire. So isn't it kind of interesting, the wire connection? There's a wire, and this is literally, they're depicting the two Twin Towers here, and he's connecting a wire. Well, lo and behold, folks, check this out. This is I just thought this was compelling. I had to bring it up during the program here. Check this out. He's walking a wire, as you can see on the screen here. But check this out. The actor, there's a young man on both sides. We obviously know who the left one is. It's Marty McFly. I done forgot the character's name for the main character of the cast, what they actually named the character from The Walk. But in their resemblance, you have a black coat, red shirt, and Marty's got a black leather. It's leather. I mean, we can go down to nitty gritty, but let's just say so, folks. There's a red shirt underneath the black coat. Isn't it weird, David? October the 15th in the Back to the Future narrative, and then 1985 Back to the Future narrative with the Marty McFly. But then this is literally came out in October the 5th, 2015, and I just can't get past this. What do you think, David? In the Christopher Lloyd, he has connections with this guy. If you remember back in the 1994 film Angels in the Outfield, here we go. I think it had Danny Glover in it. Angels in the Outfield. We got Christopher Lloyd was playing an angel, right? Here we go. We got a watcher. So
Yeah.
we could go down a big. I mean, it's insane. We got the connections with the dog constellations. We got the Orion constellations. We got the Diana connections, and now we have this. This kid in 1984. The character, I think his name is Joseph Levitt, played in that film. Well, there's another one. Looper came out in 2015, if I'm not mistaken, or 2016, somewhere in that time frame. That was a time travel movie. This gentleman is always in time travel films. Christopher Lloyd. It seems like he's big into the time travel narrative. But I just kind of want your take. It's just strange. I mean, I'm not really reaching here because there is a comparison. There's a huge comparison here. And I think Sir Robert, I shouldn't call him Sir Robert, but Zemeckis was, I mean, either he's a complete genius, or, I mean, what do you think, David? I mean, how do you feel about this?
Well, you just have to wonder if a lot of these connections aren't just spirit driven. That, it's almost that they do a lot of planning, and it's like the fallen spirits will connect the dots here. And people do what they do because they're driven by certain spirits. And these are just anomalies that are hard to understand outside of some kind of a hidden hand being directing it,
100% agree, David. 100%. So, speaking of, I'm going to slow it down a little bit because we got a lot of material here, David. We got a lot of material. I'm getting ahead of myself. So Robert Zemeckis did some other films, okay? So the next slide is from the Back to the Future. It's actually Back to the Future Part 2 is the second film. There's this antique shop, okay? You remember he goes up to it and he just takes a glimpse. He's doing a little window shopping. He looks around. You see Jaws. You see all these films that came out in the 80s, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what sticks out to you, David? What sticks out to you? What do you think?
Well, they're at the bottom where it says the population bomb is everybody's baby. Oh, yeah. My goodness, that is one of their big drums they bang, isn't it? The overpopulation fraud that they have to reduce the population. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, right there it is. The population bomb. Mm.
And
I'm sure a lot of our listeners, I mean, there's so much stuff in this that I'm sure a lot of you're going to see stuff all through this. Because, I mean, they load this stuff in there. Absolutely, they do.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, I think in that President Carter, or I'm trying to remember, there's a president there. I can't really make out.
Yeah, it looks like old Peanut there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Jimmy Carter.
Well, you said the population bomb is everyone's baby, right? So we have all these, it's going to get really bizarre. We're going to take y'all down literally a rabbit hole. But wait. Check out what's up on top of that TV up there. What do you think that is, David? That's Roger Rabbit. That's Roger Rabbit up there. You see on the antique coins where the population bomb is everywhere. The population bomb is everyone's baby. If you look to the right of that sign, there's Roger Rabbit.
Yeah.
Well, Robert Zemeckis, he did that film, David. And if you remember, we did a broadcast with the Atlantis Trilogy. I had a few little toward the end of the film. It shows what's the kid's name that played Home Alone? I don't forgot his name.
Holly McCulkin.
That's correct. He played so there was all these connections, right? And then you had the Technicolor, the rainbow colors, bringing in, and you remember how they had on the Roger Rabbit, and Christopher Lloyd plays in that film. He plays the villain, right?
Oh, my goodness.
So here we go. We have this Gilberine, like he's the. I mean, there's so many ties here, folks. I mean, we could sit here just sitting on just this slide alone, and probably spend 30 minutes on it. Roger Rabbit film. They're going down into this tunnel. So remember, there's a tunnel, right? That is in number 1 and number 2. You remember who's driving in the tunnel, David? You remember Biff?
Yeah.
And he's trying to run over Marty? There's a tunnel. There's the tunnel. There's a tunnel in Roger Rabbit. When they go through the tunnel, it's real life people, and all of a sudden it gets into cartoon land. You're going down the rabbit hole. So boom. And then there's the lava lamp. I mean, there's so much stuff sitting on this one slide alone. I mean, I don't even know, there's so many buttons and little stickers and symbolism there. There's no telling what's here. And it says happy faces, do your thing. But there's one more thing. Do you see what Marty is eyeballing? Marty is looking for something in there that's catching his eye. But see, this is before he contemplates, because he's in the future. He's in 2015, and he's contemplating something. There's a magazine in there. There's an almanac, okay? There's an almanac. And he glimpses at it, and then all of a sudden, you have Jaws, right, in the left-hand corner and all of a sudden, he goes and he's looking around, and the whole town is being converted into this futuristic town. There's floating vehicles and everything. The DeLorean's not really sticking out anymore because it's levitating, and everybody can fly in the sky and everything, right? They look like huge drones. Well, here's the connection. All of a sudden, Jaws, this 3-dimensional hologram, they're telling you, folks. They're telling you what type of technology they have. This was. Just think about that. They had this huge hologram coming in on Marty. And it looks like these Jaws, they literally depicting this new film Jaws, and or maybe an old nostalgic. I can't remember the name. I think it was literally promoting Jaws. And he's like, because he's not used to it. In 1985, he doesn't know what a hologram is, and it's coming down on him, and it looks like it's eating him. Well, there you go, Jaws in the left. I mean, oh my goodness, folks. I mean, it'll make your head hurt, literally. So, David, and we're going to talk about this almanac here in a minute, too. So,
yeah.
I mean, so when the almanac, he has this epiphany after he talks to this gentleman. He's like, I'm going to put some money on the Cubbies. Because this guy comes up, and Marty's like, oh, I wish I could. And he goes, oh, man. And then because he's talking about because the man said, I wish I could go back and put some money on the Cubbies. So basically he's like, it dawned on him. He's like, well, I guess I'll use the time machine, the DeLorean, for nefarious things. And he's like, that almanac. But a lot of people have not even thought about this. A lot of people know, but I want to kind of skip a few. I'm going to go down. It's going to skip a few things. I'm going to talk about this almanac. It's called the Gray's Sports Almanac. The Gray's Sports Almanac, David. So guess what the time frame is? The complete sports statistics, including baseball, football, boxing, horse racing, and more, 1950 through 2000. So here we go. We have the cutoff date. We don't go to 2001. Just think about this for a minute. 2001 significance, 9/11 significance, all up and down in this program on all three. Well, all first 1 and 2 film.
My.
So the Gray's Almanac. So I have some fun facts here. Weird facts. 1944 narrative with the Roswell, Mexico UFO crash. CERN Hadron Collider started in September of 1954, but it was in fully operational, David, in the 1955. I'll tell you, I will vouch for that. 1955, it was fully operational. Hadron Collider in Geneva, Switzerland. The first national live coast-to-coast commercial television broadcast in the USA took place on November the 18th, 1951. Project Mockingbird, folks. The list goes on and on with technological advances. With more than, one more thing, Y2K, then 2001 happened, 9/11. Folks, here's where it gets crazy. So I have this next slide. Obviously, I said grays. I said the grays, right? So gray aliens. People be like, Brian, it's Grey, it's Gray. I'm just making the connection. Gray's Almanac. Do we have a fallen angel connection here, David? Do we have divination? Do we have necromancy? Because you're literally doing futuristic. You're wanting to basically look at back in time, and further in time. So whenever he goes back to 1985, I mean, my goodness, I mean, he has a 20 or 15-year. I mean, Marty McFly could do a lot of damage. I mean, he could do a lot of damage. What's your take here? I mean, this Gray's Almanac. And
it's someone in the chat said potato. It's all the same thing. So yeah, that's right. And yeah, it's there you go. Yeah. And they got a plan. They got an agenda. And my goodness, I think the Grays might have something to do with that.
Well, here's the funny. When you zoom in, like I have the slide up here, and it has, the only thing I manipulated with this one was I took the shot, I put a gray alien with the arrow. If you look at that sign there, right? Look what it says, David. Vintage 1988 original water.
Oh.
I mean, here we go, David. There's so much stuff here, folks. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. I mean, you just can't. I mean, I'll zoom in a little bit there for everybody to see on the screen. This stuff is just so compelling. It's interesting. It's like, how in the world does these people have this type of ability? And me and you both know the whole warlock or masonry. They're looking at they're able to communicate with spirits. I agree with you 100%, Dave. There's a spiritual application here. You cannot tell me, just you alone. Look at the 40 years that you and Donna have done alone. Look how much work and information that y'all have in your mind and your head, and how much God has blessed you both. You can't. These people are doing this in their 20s and 30s and articulating this stuff. There's no way you can become, but you can if you have a little fallen angel power, right? A little Gilberine, a little Nimrod flavor going on. Yeah. That's just my take. Yeah. So yeah, I know I'm skipped across a few slides there. So guess who comes back? So we have this dualism. The dualism is this sports almanac in the Back to the Future 2 movie is huge for the narrative, for the plot. So when they're in 2015, there's a discussion. Dr. Emmett Brown and Marty was like, because he drops on the floor this gray sports almanac, he drops it, and they're like, you can't do this. You'll change the fabric of time. He's really adamant about saying, hey, you can't change the future. You can't change the past. You can't do it. It'll cause a ripple. It'll cause a rip in the time frame, the timeline. Well, guess what? Guess who hears this, David? Old Biff. We haven't introduced him in the program tonight, but there's an adversary in this film. His name is Biff Tannen. So, what do you see here, David? You see there's two men on the screen. It's right after, it's 24 slide. So you have the sports almanac. How did the guy in red, once again you have red symbolism, then you have this old 1950 something car, and this is old Biff on the right, but you have young Biff on the left. Well, young Biff has been a headache for the whole Marty McFly family, right? He hates Marty McFly's father. He just hates him. Okay, he's trying to go after his mother, all these things. But here's where I want to start introducing this to everybody. Biff steals in 2015, he steals the DeLorean for just a few seconds. I'm going to bring something up. He has a cane. I don't have it on here. It has a panther on the front of it, or on the top of it. It has a panther, I think, or a hand. It looks like a tiger claw like thing on the cane that he walks around with. We're not going to say the name because David Carrico will start rolling in the back of the seat. He'll fall on the floor. There's a term that I've been saying to him for a week, and I'm not going to.
Hey, we could have everybody laughing here, Brad. We could have everybody laughing.
Well, I'm not going to go there tonight. But so anyways, he breaks a part of the cane off in the DeLorean. So there's evidence. So Doc Brown and Marty find this to know that he went back in time. So he goes back in time in 1955. Well, he's convincing his younger self. So would you say let's go down the rabbit hole here, literally Roger Rabbit style. Me and you've talked about some interesting conversations face to face drinking coffee. There's two men here, but they're the same man. Just think about it. We got the dualism, we got the twins, right? One of them's aged older, yeah, but they're exactly the same man, and they're talking, communicating. I mean, this is bizarre world. What's your take, David? I mean, what's your take?
Yeah. Well, this is just me. This is kind of what I see here, and it is. It's just it is just literally mind blowing. But the guy in the car looks like Biden.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he just looks like Biden, and the guy screaming looks like Trump.
He looks like Trump.
And I mean, that's what Biden, his little Corvette, how much have we heard about little Biden and his sports car? And that's what I see there. I don't know. That just is what comes across to me. Call me silly, but it looks like old Uncle Joe there.
Well, here's another slide. He's basically having to convince and beat into his younger self, look, I can make you rich. I can make you powerful, right? You can become. Just think about this for a minute. We're using stuff that we barely have understanding, but I'm gonna promise you the world with this 1950 to 2000, statistic. We're talking about the Gray's Almanac. So he's like, I'll give you everything. Now, here's what's really crazy. During this screenshot here, during this scene, he goes, look, he's like, you baboon. He's hitting him with the magazine. And he's like, watch. And you can hear him, and all of a sudden, David, through the radio, right? He's like, watch, listen. And then he's like, I bet, a certain amount of, bet that this football team is going to win. And he convinces him. He becomes powerful because he bets on horses and all these horse races. Well, guess what? He becomes a powerful character. All right. So you said the connection with Trump, right? So we was going to talk about that. He has this Biff Tanner's Pleasure Paradise. This is in Back to the Future 2, and I wrote on here, isn't it interesting how Biff Tanner's character has a big tower in the Back to the Future 2 movie? Yeah. And looks similar to who do we know that looks similar to this? I mean, the complexion, everything they did here, even on the illustration, this neon light, who does it look like? And you said it a minute ago. I mean,
yeah, it sure looks like Mr. Trump, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, I want to bring something else up. So here's Donald Trump and the Trump Tower on the right there. How y'all like that illustration of Donald Trump there, cartoon there? So I'm going to go down a deep rabbit hole with you. So I was talking about arrows. We was talking about the Western Union number 9 neon light earlier with the 9/11 connection. Well, what about the tip of the spear, David? I know you know where I'm going here. The tip of the spear. And you look at the Trump Tower, and there's a correlation with him whenever he served. What was that? Well, what was the school that he? It slipped my mind. There's a school that he attended in New York.
Oh, Wharton School of Business.
That's correct. And I think they have some type of something they call the tip of the spear or something. There's some kind of, I guess it's in their material, but there's something about the tip of the spear. Well, it's interesting. Well, the arrow, we're talking about the Orion, the arrow, we're talking about the arrows, we're talking about the tip of the spear, we're talking about Diana polishing the spear for her, the numeralium, if I pronounce it again correctly, the correlation with all that. And David, I mean, what do you say? I mean, there's just, and then, I mean, we can go on to, what do you think about this? Where do you think I'm going here? We're in the rabbit hole right now, David.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Plow on, lead
okay.
on. We'll see where we go here.
So, as everybody knows, so we have this, there's a huge connection, and Brother David and John Pounders did an awesome job on Midnight Ride with the Trump connection to time travel. Let's just go there for a minute. So we have Donald Trump. We have this Biff character, this Pleasure Paradise, right? So it's very strange. It's not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence. High tower, and here's another thing, folks. Look at our society today. Look at New York. Look at the paradigm we're living in. Everything, all these big cities and metropolises are in shambles. It's because like during Back to the Future 2, there's tanks on the streets, there's death and destruction, there's anarchy, there's lawlessness everywhere. And what do you think? Has anybody seen what's going on in America? So there's a correlation there. But here's where it gets really the heavy sauce. Let's go back to the Future 1. I mentioned earlier Nikola Tesla. So, David, when he crashes on Back to the Future 1, check that slide out where I zoomed in on it. When the DeLorean, when he's in 1955 and the 9/11 symbolism, we got the torch, the flame, and Doc's going around with the flame and torch. He's resembling that. And then, while he's doing that, spontaneously, Marty is in 1985, and guess what he did? He runs into you remember the whole theater? He runs right into it. He crashes. So here we go. We have the photo booth at the beginning in the Twin Mile parking lot. There's a crash. There's something there. There's a projection. Like he's transcended. It's the same concept. He disappears in 1955, and then he crashes into something. Well, guess what it says? It says the Assembly of Christ, David. How do you feel about that? The Assembly of Christ. And then it says Reverend John Crump. What does that make you think of, David?
Well, and a lot of people don't realize that John Trump, who was Donald Trump's uncle, has many of Tesla's papers. And all of this, let's search Mar-a-Lago to find the secret docs. I just wonder if maybe there was a little bit of that going on there. But I mean, that is just really speaks, the Trump symbolism here is just hard to miss. It is just uncanny. And back there during the 80s, Mr. Trump was very much being groomed. And that's what I believe about Mr. Trump. I think he was groomed, and that they saw someone there that they can use to fulfill an agenda. And I just absolutely believe that. And we're going to really be hitting a deep dive on Mr. Trump next Saturday night on the Midnight Ride, looking at some very, very serious things that I think we all need to seriously consider. But yeah, I mean, the Assembly of Christ with John Crump, really, yeah, that's hard to miss.
Yeah, and let's see, I'll have another screen here so this is where it gets really crazy. There's one slide, it's at 27 slide, David. It says salvation is free. When you zoom back out and you see the crash DeLorean, there's destruction everywhere. This is in 1985. And like we just said, it's strange. It's the John Crump Reverend. It's very strange. Hey, John Trump. And so you have this Nikola Tesla. And if I'm not mistaken, David, the DARPA connection, the whole Nikola Tesla, I think there's like 20 trunks. Was it 20 trunks missing? And then supposedly he was able to manipulate time. There's all kinds of weird theories out there, conspiracy theories, whatever. But DARPA had that, and then somehow miraculously John Trump has acquired some of this art, these files from Nikola Tesla. And I just thought it was baffling when they, look at Assembly of Christ, salvation is free, and I think it has Jesus is calling you, the young there, and it literally says Jesus there underneath salvation is free. It says it there on the third. Well, there's 3 panels there. The third panel says Jesus is calling you for the young. I mean, they're literally putting, they're blaspheming. Let's just say that they're blaspheming stuff here. It's just awful. It's just horrible. And
the Biff Tanner's Pleasure Palace, that deserves a little bit of thought here. Right at the time in the 80s where this was being made in New York City, there was a place called the Plaza Hotel. And there was a fellow there, I'll not call his name, but I'll get it wrong. But he was running a blackmail scheme out of the Plaza Hotel. Basically, we'll get people drunk and film them with the young ladies. And he had a blackmail scheme going out of Plaza Hotel. Well, the fellow that took that over was a guy by the name of Roy Cohn. And Roy Cohn was Donald Trump's lawyer, and he became Trump's mentor in 1982. And who buys the Plaza Hotel? Trump buys the whole hotel. And there were parties there. And we have this guy playing the boy and the girl. He plays the boy and he plays the girl too. Well, Roy Khan was a blatant homosexual, and he was so feared that there was a Netflix documentary called "Where's My Roy Khan," and they interviewed one of his homosexual lovers, one of his homosexual boyfriends, and he said he got the biggest kick that back in the 80s they would go to these Republican, conservative, Christian fundraiser events. Roy Khan would take his homosexual boyfriend and nobody would say a word. I mean, he was gangster to the max. And the whole Trump Towers, when it was built out of concrete instead of steel against the advice of the builders. And guess who owned the concrete company? Fat Tony Salerno of the mob. So the Pleasure Palace, absolutely. The Plaza Hotel, which Trump bought, this was the height of revelry in New York City. J. Edgar Hoover showed up to one of Roy Khan's parties in drag. And of course, now it's well known that Hoover is also a blatant homosexual. So we've got a real nasty little bit of business here. And of course, they're burning money like crazy. And that's it. They got the magic money machine going, and they're going to bring the whole thing down through just the crazy printing their monopoly money. So, I mean, this is amazing. And at the time this was done in the 1980s, the Pleasure Palace there was going full blast there at the Plaza Hotel.
There's nothing you can say to me. It's just all history, but getting back, we're sitting here on the slide, right, with Biff Tanner. I want to point out something, David. I was going to point out earlier, but you said burning money. Look at his hand. He's holding the burning money with flame, and it looks like the torch. Just think about it. It's the same thing what we've been talking about during the whole broadcast with Emmett Brown's carrying the torch, the Diana worship, the Nimrod worship, and we're talking about the constellation of Orion. And Biff's, he's sitting there, got a cigar, right? And he's like, look at me. Look how tough I am, Well, you want to be in my pleasure paradise? You want to be in my tower where all the great gold is? Look at y'all. Everything's in shambles. Y'all want to come and speak to me? I've earned all my money hard, but no. Let's go back. He didn't earn his money right. He didn't earn his money the right way. He cheated. He literally cheated. I know we're going to be talking about this on the JFK conversation when we talking November the 19th and the Midnight Ride you're getting ready to do too. But he cheated. Biff Tanner cheated to get to this point in this history, this historic time here. Isn't it just crazy, David? I mean, you just...
Yeah.
One other thing I want to pull up here real quick. Two things. We're going to skip a few slides, but I want to touch base and get your opinion on this. What do you think about Baron Trump collection? The Ingersoll Lockwood. I know you guys did that Trump time travel midnight ride. What we're talking about, I think it's 120, 100 and something year old book.
Yeah.
And what are we talking about here, David? I mean, if you really want to get down, I'm trying to remember when this first book came out. If it came out in the 1885, around that time frame, I'm gonna freak out. So if that book was published and written by 1885, and we can tie all this in for the Back to the Future, that's one thing that I do not know when that book was. I can't remember.
It was right in that time frame, I do believe, and I was looking for my copy of that, and I can't find it. I was looking everywhere. I do have one here somewhere because we did that midnight ride on that. And in this book, there are things that are absolutely uncanny that were written about the Trump family that have absolutely come to pass. And many of those very events were fulfilled right there in New York City. So, and the conclusion we came to on the midnight ride is that there are demonic spirits, and we know that we've got the Illuminist Freemasons and the Luciferian Freemasons. They're executing a plan, and there are devils that are helping them. Mm-hmm. And people, when they put themselves into these demonic agendas. They're manipulated by spirits, and it's supernatural. I think, like with a lot of this Back to the Future stuff, a lot of it's planned, and a lot of it that spirits are just getting in here and filling in the lines. But absolutely, and of course, Baron von Trump, he's got him a dog there, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, that book's crazy. And we did an entire midnight ride, and I mean, he's going through tunnels, and there's metals in the tunnels. And I know we got we talked about graphite and graphene in that, and boy, I tell you what, YouTube filled the britches, and they went off on us as they have. But yeah, there's so much there that you cannot write it off to coincidence. You have to come to the conclusion that you've got and human beings just can't plan that good the way it was. I mean, you've got a demonic agenda that's being fulfilled by the fallen powers.
Absolutely. Well, and then one thing I want to bring up too is I remember reading this. I've read quite a bit of it. I thought that Barron was living in a high tower, and also the vice president of the time, wasn't his last name Pence? I think. So there's a weird, I mean, I don't believe in coincidences, but whatever's going on here, this is something to document as a large amount of connections with the Trump. There's a few things that I forgot to mention, and this is important for us to bring this into the program. So we have the Donald Trump connection, right? You remember we was discussing off air about a certain movie. I didn't feel comfortable about putting any of the imagery up because it's just a very vulgar movie. Very vulgar. Doc Emmett Brown says a certain term throughout the program of what, Back to the Future 1, Back to the Future 2, Back to the Future 3. What does he say, David? That's so, it's iconic, I guess, if you want to say that, and everybody seems to miss it, but it's something very, it's tied to a cultic meaning. What is that, David?
Well, that phrase he would keep saying, "Great Scott."
Yeah.
Great Scott.
Well, a lot of people don't know what this means. They just think it's just, for theater, right? Like you just think, well, he's just saying that just for the film's sake, and I'm not 100% sure. And I'm going to prove it. So there's a movie. Well, I'll talk about it, but there's a movie here. I watched clips of it, but we could not even show, I'm not going to show nothing of it because it's just so bad. But it's called Ghost Can't Do It. It's a film in 1985 or 1989. Imagine that. 1989. Trump is in the film. The woman is, I think she's married to a millionaire, businessman. Of course, Trump's in there. There's a term. So the gentleman's name, his last name is Scott. Well, Trump is sitting across the table from her, and they're discussing business. They have there's Chinese men there discussing all these terms because this great Scott that they talk about in the film, he passes away. The woman is trying to reincarnate. No joke. She wants to reincarnate her husband in whatever means necessary to do it. Well, here's the catch. He's somehow inhabited this woman, and he's going around telling her what to do and how to do business. That's why it says Ghost Can't Do It film. Okay. Well, here's the sad part. Trump's sitting across from her, and he's discussing business. You know how charismatic he is. He said, "Mrs. Scott," and he refers back and forth to that. And she goes, "I have the great Scott in me." And she says that several times. Like he's communicating, and okay. So you're probably like, what's the point, Brian? What are you coming up with tonight? Well, Emmett Brown from Back to the Future is saying it all the time. Even Marty McFly, Well, so this etymology, you can look this up. It's uncertain or disputed, right? And then there's it talks about may come from General Winsfield Scott of American Civil War, who weighed about 300 pounds and referred to his troops as Great Scott. But here's the kicker. Alternatively, perhaps a euphemism for Great Satan or Good God. So, folks, I'm not trying to ruin I'm not trying to ruin an 80s classic for everybody, but when Emmett Brown is saying that, is he saying Great Satan? What do you think, David? Because, and then the whole ties with Trump and this whole 9/11 connection, you have this 1989 film, Ghost Can't Do It, and literally this woman, it's a horrible film. It's horrible. There's trash in it. I do not recommend it. I wouldn't even put the slide up because I don't want children to watch this and see some filthy on here. So parents don't be watching this film. Believe me, please. It's not nothing to do. It's not going to glorify you. It's not going to glorify the Father. It's just going to take the trash can. But they do say Great Satan. Trump's in front of her. Same concept with Marty McFly and then Doc Emmett Brown. If the euphemism is for Great Satan, David, what do you think?
Well, all through the film, we've seen this upside down, and that's what Satan does. He turns things upside down. He's the inverse of God. And we see this symbolism a lot. And it would be very easy for me to believe, and the likely conclusion that this is that deep esoteric intent of that.
Yeah, I don't even want to. I just
that would make easy sense to me.
Absolutely, absolutely. But I just couldn't. I just couldn't believe that that's what that. Yeah, but I mean, it'll make your stomach turn. So we've touched on. I'm gonna slow it down a little bit because we're coming up on the 2 hour. Well, we're an hour and 30 minutes, hour and a half in here. So, folks. The lightning strikes the clock tower, okay? Lightning strikes the clock tower. It says, save the clock tower. Save the clock tower. The symbolism there is, and they're trying to give you, they're feeding you, there's bait and switching to this film. We didn't know anything about it until later on, after 2001. But save the clock tower. There's a number there. It gets struck by lightning. 10:04. So a blue lightning bolt comes down and strikes the clock tower, freezes it in time, and there's a 30 years, and they still haven't fixed it. So, what happened? We just come up on, was it 11 years? 11-year 9/11 anniversary, David? 9/11.
Yeah.
11-year anniversary. That's that. And then everywhere around my community. In the state of Kentucky, there was this, because it's September, emergency awareness, But folks, there was something that was done in October. What day was that, David, that they sent out a pulse? 5G tower, radio communications, television, right? What day was that they sent the emergency broadcast? And that wasn't that long ago, just a few weeks, 10 days ago.
Yeah. That certainly was 10-4, wasn't it?
10-4. So here we got
absolutely.
We got the 10-4 connection, and we had the 10-4 on October the 4th, 2023. But folks, this is where it gets really crazy. Did you know, as of October the 4th, the duration of 2023, how many days we had left? How many days we have left? And here we go. We had 88 days left in the year. As far as October the 4th means. So we're in the 70s now, but we got, as of October the 4th, we had 88 days. So, David, I don't want to go down the Roger rabbit hole, but what do you think? Why? And I kept thinking, I said, why? October 4th, and they also had October the 11th for a backup, just in case October didn't work. And I was even thinking about that. I said, that's a bizarre number to use, the 11. And what's your take on this, David? How do you feel about this?
Well, the whole basis of the film, it's about exotic technology, doing things that the ordinary person would consider impossible. And it's pointing back here again to this technology where we're on the verge. Well, we're not on the verge, it's here. The things they're doing now are so Science fiction has become science reality.
Hmm.
There's so many things it's hard to keep up with, and the things we know about are a drop in the bucket to what they're really doing. And it's a pointer. It's a pointer to where that's what this is all about in their mind. It's about developing their technology to where they can literally control and enslave all of mankind, and they think they can actually achieve eternal life through transhumanism and technology. And it seems to be the whole consistent theme of what these people are doing. And sadly, in this good old movie, there's so much of that stuff in there.
Absolutely. Well, we got 20 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and throw the heavy sauce on there, David. What do you think?
Well, come on in with the hot sauce. Come on in with the hot sauce.
Let's throw some Tabasco sauce on the flame here. So, folks, there's something that just, we kind of touched base on the slide with Biff and the older self Biff. And there's we could get into Gemini, we could talk terms like that, but I want to go down to the NASA narrative. I want to talk about some of the manipulation and some of the things, and I know, David, you're well versed in this. I want to talk about the Apollo missions, right? What year was it that the whole Apollo crew exploded and supposedly went into oblivion, but one person, there was twins everywhere. Like, after that, they all said that they had twins, but there was one. I think it was the main person that didn't have a twin, but everybody else miraculously had a twin. Do you know what Apollo mission was? I can't remember off the top of my head.
I can't recall either, Brian.
Well,
but I know what you're talking about.
They're still using the same names. They're teaching at Harvard, they're teaching chemistry, they're teaching all kinds of stuff and professors and everything. And you mean to tell me that that's not a thing? Like, there's something bizarre world about it, right? So I got one for you. So we have this twin. We have the two Biffs. Well, what other times in the Back to the Future do we see that have two twins, right? So in Back to the Future Part 2, Marty McFly's mother, she runs into herself and looks herself right in the eye, and it's the older version. But if you look at it, let's just come down to the realization it's the same person. It's just one's in 2015 and one's in 1985, but they cross face to face, right? And I took this screenshot off the film because there's that duality, right? Two-Face, they got the two. It's just, what's your take on that, David? You got twins. There's twins here. Well, and Back to the Future Part 2, Back to the Future Part 1, there's twins. Marty rolls up. He tries to save Doc. Here's the terrorist. Here's the parking lot. We begin with the broadcast here at the beginning. Dr. Emmett Brown is on the ground. The terrorist has already, took him out. But there's two Martys. And he's watching it. He knows how it plays out. He's a watcher. So he's on that twin, not now. Now it's not Twin Pines anymore. It's a lone pine. It's one. He's literally touching it and watching himself. He's watching it. He's observing it. And he's worried because he's like, oh, I remember doing this. But to him, it's not been that long ago. But to the one that he's watching in the jumpsuit, it's new. But he's observing, right? So the same thing. Once again, we have 1955. We got two Docs. The flame torch that we showed at the beginning of the program with 9/11. Whenever Marty goes back to 1985, this is before Doc Brown is there trying to get that Gray's Almanac. Well, one of them, the younger one, asks for a wrench. Well, he's like, yeah, I know exactly what wrench. He's trying to back up because he's got his back turned to him. But it's the same thing. There's twins again. You got the symbol, there it is. There's nothing else you can say. There's just, and I took another screenshot here. He's looking, so this is before he walks up on his younger self, so the older Doc, and there's that Western Audio number 9 with the arrow. And then underneath the blanket there, that's the DeLorean. So what do you? I mean, it's just, and it gets worse and worse. So you have during the Back to the Future Part 2, Marty sees himself once again on the stage when he's playing for that Under the Sea dance for his parents. And he's trying to keep those thugs away from, he's the one that drops the bags of sand on that posse of the Biff's buddies. And there's so many things that he takes part in, but in Back to the Future 1, he doesn't even know who's doing what. It's just really bizarre. So what do you think about this, David? I mean, is it reaching? I don't think it's reaching. It's bait.
Well, this touches on a lot of concepts here. Cloning, the concept of cloning. It touches on the concept of the split personality, the Manchurian candidate, that you can actually make a person do things they're not aware of doing in their whole self. And this goes back once again, we have this Nazi scientific basis undergirding the whole thing. And the fellow that was one of the most famous of the Nazi mad scientist doctors was Joseph Mengele. And Joseph Mengele was obsessed with twins. He was absolutely obsessed with it. And anytime he could find a pair of twins to experiment on, he was in the height of his glory. They would do medical experiments. They would do psychic experiments with twins. And after World War II, Joseph Mengele went to Brazil. And there's a movie out there called The Boys from Brazil. Gregory Peck was in that. And it deals with it was a movie, but based on the very true story that Dr. Mengele went and became a doctor in Brazil, and he continued these medical experiments there, injecting women with his concoction that would make them have twins. And there have been documentaries done on this, and you can go down to Brazil in this time period, and you can get school class pictures with 20 people in the class, and there'll be 4 sets of twins in the same class. And because in this area, I mean, he was still after it. This is a huge part of the whole, the Nazi mystique of their black experiments. And this is huge. And it gets into the Manchurian candidate aspect of the splitting of the personality, the cloning. So yeah, this is a huge concept that just explodes in all kinds of different directions.
Absolutely. It makes me think of the god Janus. I think I'm pronouncing it correctly.
Yeah, the two-faced god.
Two-faced god.
Gemini, and we see us in Scripture, the Castor and the Pollux that the Apostle Paul was on. That was the representative of these two same deities.
So this is kind of going to the third film, and it goes along with what we're talking about here. But it goes about to a conversation that me and you had privately, that we kept between me and you. But check this out, David. And then this goes back to the Bermuda Triangle, the Philadelphia experiment. I mean, here we go, David. So we have Doc Brown. This is in 1955, and they're trying to get the DeLorean from it being sitting in the cave with, Copernicus leading, them down the tunnel system to the, 1885, where it was shipped off, when Doc got zapped from the lightning, the bolt of lightning got him, and the part 2 of Back to the Future. Well, here's one that really gets me. It's kind of eerie. Emmett Brown is sitting there. Copernicus goes over and starts crying because he senses, now this gets really weird. There's a grave here. It says, "Here lies Emmett Brown, died September the 7th, 1885, with a bullet to the back by Biff Tanner's ancestor." So Copernicus is saying, "Doc, you're in the ground." And then Marty goes, I think I'm seeing a ghost. So speaking of ghosts that can't do it, he goes, I'm seeing a ghost. And Marty's like, "I think I am." He's like, "Marty, you seen a ghost?" And he said, "Yeah, I am." So there's a dead one and there's a live one. So, and here's the ironic part. The one that's buried right there, let's face the facts, David. The one that's buried in this film is the 1985 Emmett Brown. Okay? This is the 1985 Emmett Brown. He gets teleported back to 1885. That guy right there with the flashlight is the 1955 Emmett Brown. So we got us a messed up paradox. So what do you say, David, about this? This is some, me and you talked about the Montauk Project. We talked about Philadelphia Experiment, all that stuff. But what do you think? Because this is kind of eerie.
Well, maybe there's a scenario under which ghosts could do it. And one of the biblical narratives that surrounds the beast is the deadly head wound. That the beast received the deadly head wound and the head wound was healed. And we can see this scenario here of he's dead, but he's alive. It's a mockery of Christ. He's the one that was dead, but is alive and lives forevermore. And the beast will imitate this. And we see this this concept of the healing of the head wound. And of course, that's pointing to this beast figure. And it's just kind of disturbing who they're alluding to here.
Well, and I think it's mocking. Well, it's obviously mocking Christ and God, but once again, the Nimrod narrative.
Yeah.
If we really wanted to go down a dark path here, David, we did the Emerald Tablets. We talked about the Emerald Tablets back on the Atlantis Trilogy. We talked about Thoth. Remember I was telling you about the 100-year cycles? Guess what? 1885, David. 1885, 1985. There's a 100-year cycle right there. It's real dark and demented. We'll have to talk about that. For the sake of the video, we'll have to do that on a different broadcast. But I want to continue on. So not only we have this, but here let's go into actual reality. Let's get away from the Hollywood narrative for a minute. Let's get back on this NASA. Check these two gentlemen out here. These two gentlemen on the screen here. We got our lovely NASA logo. And once again, we have twins. These two gentlemen here, it drives me a little bit loopy. Did you know there's a study for a NASA to do with twins and NASA? There's a study. There's a study on that. It's off the, I think you can go to the, you can go right to the nasa.gov. It literally says twin study. And these two men show up. How do you feel about that, Brother David?
Well, there's a fella that became the head of Bell Aerospace.
Mm-hmm.
His name was Walter Dornberger. He was Werner von Braun's boss at the Penube rocket facility, which created the V-2 rockets, the very first cruise missiles with Mr. von Braun and Walter Dornberger. Well, in Fringe, we have William Bell with Massive Dynamics. And they parlay that whole scenario. Well, Bell Aerospace, well, it's William Bell, Massive Dynamics. And here again, they pick up this whole Nazi scenario and they just put it in front of her face. But yeah, and you think about the Apollo people, well, the idea that they're still around and this whole thing, it's mind-boggling. What are they playing at here? It's nothing good. And through Paperclip, we all know so well that not just the small players, but Dornberger run Massive Dynamics, the elite positions at NASA and Bell Aerodynamics, every department was ruled by a Nazi scientist. So why wouldn't we see this obsession with twins in the medical and the occult realm? Why wouldn't we see that at NASA? And there we got it. And we can see the crazy, unexplainable things that go on there. And it's just evil. It's totally demonic, is all it is.
Absolutely. And you know what's so funny about, well, it's not funny, but guess who these two gentlemen's names are? One of them's called Scott Kelly.
Yeah.
And that was the one that's in space. So apparently they're identical twins, but one of them's on Earth and he's supposedly retired. Well, guess what the other one's name is Mark. Mark the Spot. Come on now. Great Scott. And X marks the spot. I'm being a little funny here, but yeah. Here's the duality of this and the insanity. I remember exactly when they come, and I remember one of them said, I've grown. I've been in space for too long and I've grown. And the other one's like, I've gained weight. There was this weirdness about it. Like, I've grown a couple inches since I've been out in space. No joke, David. And the other one's like, oh, we're identical twins, but not identical anymore. And there's that there's that ridiculousness going on, right? And I thought it was interesting that they was growing taller. I was like, man, what are you doing over there? You got the Nephilim ships up there. You know, you get a little, you go up there to get taller. I don't know, but it's just kind of fun.
And there's one fella, and I believe is a senator. I believe.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
He's a senator, and he was married to I think she was a congressman that got shot and was almost killed. But yeah, out there in Arizona, which is one of the ground zero now for election theft and flooding our border with illegal immigration. Yeah, you're doing a good job.
Yeah, it's just it's the whole NASA the twin study is baffling. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
But a few more slides, David. This goes to Back to the Future 3. So here we go. Doc Brown, after they dug the DeLorean out, that's been sitting there since 1885. So we're in the 1955 narrative. We have the DeLorean headed to a projector. Once again, we have a projector, right? But I wanted to point this out with my arrows. I know you and John Powers have done an awesome job on the trees of Lebanon, the trees that are Enoch. I'm talking about the trees that reach to heaven. Yeah. Here we are with two pillars, folks. One of them's lower. Okay. We got petrified trees. We got tree stumps here. Okay, but we got this lovely white projector once again. Marty McFly's mother and father. We had the hangman connection with the whole 9/11. The towers crumbling down. Here we go. We got two pillars, the representing of two symbols. We have a drive-in movie. At the bottom of the drive-in movie, there is Indians. It's just Indians, right? Well, as he proceeds to go, I even took a screenshot. You start seeing blue lightning again, because he's powering up the flux capacitor. There is the Indians. No joke. And as soon as he goes and he misses the whole projector, drives right, he's impact, there's impact coming, and he's bracing for it, but he knows he can get up to 88. Mind you, the drive-in is very small, and Doc was using his statistics and his mathematics to say, yeah, you'll be able to achieve 88 miles an hour. Well, once he barely makes it there, he goes through the projector, and he comes out on the other side, and lo and behold, David, there's a whole crew. There's a whole crew of Indians coming at him. So the fabric of reality, I wanted to, Steven Spielberg and the Robert Zemeckis gentleman, there's inconsistencies here. We can stay in the city and we hit the buildings, but this one takes you to basically the Wild Wild West. Yeah. And I mean, what's your take on here, David? Because Back to the Future Part 3 had Indian mounds. There's a little frame, and he goes, Doc Brown, there's like a billboard, and he has a map, and he's like, yes. He keeps saying Great Scott and all this stuff, and he's like, you're not thinking four-dimensional, Marty. We got to go across the bridge, and in 1985, the bridge will be there. But there's this Indian mounds. He goes, I didn't know it was an Indian, something on the lines of I didn't know it was an Indian connection. But if you look, I couldn't get a still frame, but I know that there is. If you look, there's mounds. So they take the bridge across it. So once again, folks, we have this connection to the bridge with the Indian mounds, the cosmological standpoint, the constellations, which I have looked at Indian mounds and cross-referencing the star constellations and all these different things with comets. The Indian people, David, let's just face it, astronomy, they knew they can make a astronomer probably his cheeks get red, because they could probably let them eat their lunch. I mean, they were so intelligent, but beyond their people think that it's indigenous and they don't know anything, but there was people way back in the day, and the Diluvian world was not what we've been told. But I'm kind of going to rant, but this Indian connection, I wanted to point this out, Brother David, because I think it's a portal. All throughout the broadcast tonight, everything we've seen, projections, and where they're taking us as a society, all the things of the metaverse and everything, but it's so the holographic technologies. This is all tied into some kind of this site. It's either probably was this Nevada, you think, or something like that, or Arizona. Don't hold me to it. I didn't remember where they actually did the drive-in. I didn't look that up. Forgive me, folks. But the two pillars, And what do you think, David? Because I mean, there's a white screen. It's the projecting. He's projecting himself through time and going back into the past to go get Doc.
Yeah, and certainly I think you hit on it talking about the metaverse. And it's like all of this, you're driving into the theater, you're driving into the drive-in movie screen, and you go in there and your perceptions of reality are changed. And this is what the metaverse does. You come in here and you reproduce yourself, you twin yourself, if you will, in this alternate reality. And it's brain salad surgery. People lose they lose their grasp of reality with it. You're literally going into these worlds like the crazy show Black Mirror, where they literally take your life and they reproduce your life into a movie, The Truman Show. And we've had these concepts there, and literally that's what they're saying. We own you. We own you. We control your reality. We're the masters of time and space, but I'm sorry you're not. I'm sorry you're not. And they want to, and it's mass control through technology, but it can only control people that buy into it. And for us that recognize the lie of it, we can see it, we can see what's going on, but we're not going to buy into it and be a part of it and go down that rabbit hole with them. But yeah, I mean, it's chilling, the consistent symbolism here and the tale that these people are weaving for us.
Yeah, and they did a good job. I think they did a good job with television.
Oh yeah.
The television standpoint, when I showed that Gray's Almanac, the commercials and broadcasting signals and frequencies and whatnot. I mean, you talked about it earlier. You mentioning scalar energy.
Yeah.
Look, folks, that's why people are seeing things in the sky. That's why people are saying, "Oh, wow, there's a cylinder shape here. There's this, there's that," and the unexplained. I mean, folks, literally just the other night, Brother David. This is about 2 a.m. in the morning, right? The day before the eclipse, right? This is just the other day, yesterday. 2 a.m. I told my wife, I said, "There's something in the sky." And David, I kid you not, I took a frame and took a frame and took a frame. Took about seven shots, and there was this huge red, just I don't know what it was in the sky, and it was. This is hours before the eclipse was supposed to be even. You can't make this stuff up. There's things happening all over the place. I mean, it's time to get our mind on the Word of God and really drive into and think. Okay, speaking of drive-in movie, let's drive in for Jesus. You know what I mean? We ain't got time. We ain't got time to be crashing into stuff. We got crash into our Bible. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's all I got tonight, David. What do you think about this whole conclusion to the Back to the Future decoding? How do you feel about it? Have you learned anything?
Oh yeah. You've done a tremendous job, Brian, pointing out all these things. You've done a really great job. I appreciate it. And I appreciate everybody hanging out with us and just kind of fellowshipping tonight and kicking back a little bit. And a good place to be when the craziness is going on in the world around us. And all the time we're having people tell us they're seeing things, crypto creatures and strange things in the sky just constantly. And these things are escalating, and they're just going to keep escalating. And as we speak, all of us know that the tensions could escalate into World War III before we wake up in the morning. And in times like this, we need Jesus. And Jesus will give peace to your life. He'll give meaning to your life. And that's what it's all about, is to show people that in the midst of this craziness, there is a Savior. His name is Jesus Christ. And when we repent and believe the gospel, we can be born again, and we can have the sure word of the scriptures to be our guide. And that's what it's all about. For anyone that watches this, for all of the lies of the devil, there is the truth of the word of God, and it's Jesus. Jesus is real. He is real, and he will be your Savior and your Lord and your sure guide. He will give you the Holy Spirit to lead you through the confusion of these last days. And that's what it's all about. It's about introducing people to the gospel. So if there's any takeaway from this tonight, there is a plan. There's a plan that they're implementing, and it looks like, and they're going to get what they want, but when they get it, it ain't going to be what they think it was going to be.
Absolutely.
But through it all, God is going to use the remnant of the Israel of God, and that's going to be in preaching to the gospel. And the crazier things get, the more sense we're going to make people. And that's the good thing. Right now, there's a lot of people, more people than ever, are looking toward FOJC. And we're thankful for that. And that's what we want to hold up, that bloodstained banner. That's what it's all about through all we do. And we enjoy decoding these things. That ignorance isn't bliss. You know, we need to be aware of what's going on. And one of the big things is this predictive programming through movies and media. And we need to be aware of it. You know, ignorance isn't bliss. So with that, I just want to thank you so much, Brian, for all the work you do.
Yeah,
and
no problem.
Thank all of our Sunday Night Live people from hanging out with us tonight and kicking back a little bit. We hope that you enjoyed the broadcast. And a lot of times our broadcasts are very heavy. And I'm sure we're going to have a lot more heavy ones coming. But it's good to kind of lighten it up a little bit and just realize the Lord's in control. It's all right.
Absolutely.
It's going to be okay.
Absolutely.
It's going to be all right.
There was one thing we forgot, David. I know before you end us out, did you forget the video, man? Come on now, the bus. It wouldn't be fitting.
Oh, yeah. How could we forget the Rapture bus and Marty McFly? Yeah. Yeah, you know, at a time where there's so many false prophets that are saying, yeah, we're going to build third temple, we're going to be out of here, woo, 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 woo. You know, it would not be right, but to mock them a little bit and to put, and you know, that's all right. Elijah mocked the prophets of Baal. You know, well, maybe he's sleeping, or maybe he's out relieving himself, which meant he was out doing his business. Yeah, maybe he's doing his business and he just can't show up, you know. But you know, and we got to poke fun at these prophets. They need to be mocked. They need to be denigrated and ridiculed to let people know that all they're doing, they're leading you down a false path. And right now, we don't need, people need the reality of the Word of God, that you can't trust it. Build your house on the sand right now. You're going to see it go down. But yeah, absolutely, Brian. We got to have a little Marty McFly in the Rapture bus, don't we?
Yeah, and I'm going to give credit to Dan Bedoni for helping me acquire this. So, folks, we're going to play a little Rapture bus. So hang on tight.
Now we're going to have a little peek at the Rapture bus. And let's just take a little look here. This is a little animation. And looky here what we got here, folks. We've got the Rapture bus. Vote for Trump. My goodness, we're getting out of here. And who is that driving the Rapture bus? Why, that's old Marty McFly. Look at him. It's Marty. Come on, McFly. Figure it out. You're driving that Rapture bus right into the pit of hell. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, each and every one of you can have a free ride on the Rapture bus. Check your soul at the door. It's all you can eat. Pork ribs, catfish, unlimited shrimp. And in case you get indigestion, laxatives will be provided, because number 2 should be easy to do. And by the way, if you have any qualms about disobedience to God or any conviction of the Holy Spirit that you have broken God's law or sinned, we will have 24/7. We will have messages piped in, once saved, always saved, to drive away once and forever any conviction that you might have about breaking God's law and not being obedient to Him. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the Rapture bus is there, and you can have your seat, or you can choose to obey the doctrine of Christ and the commandments of God.
Folks, there we go. There's the Rapture bus. Get dedicated to David Carrico because he asked me to put that in there tonight. So, Back to the Future, the Decoded. We couldn't go without it.
And pray for us because we fight this constant battle, and they're giving us a hard time because they don't like what we're saying. So we really need your prayers, and we thank all of you that pray for us and support us in what we're doing. Thank you so very, very much. And Brian put a tremendous amount of work into this broadcast tonight, and every broadcast we do, we plan ahead and we try to do the very best we can to put forth the truth to people in a timely and a pertinent manner. And we thank you all so much for that. And we just love you bunches. Any other final thoughts? It's just kind of hard to quit sometimes, isn't it?
Oh yeah. I can contest to that. It's real, guys. The battle is real when it comes into the YouTube world or anything to do with social media or any of these platforms. What Brother David is saying is that's real. That's real. I experienced it the same on my channel on Visual Disturbance. I'm missing it's close to 3,000 subscribers, and they're not even recorded. So I can only imagine what John Pounders and David go through on the Midnight Ride. Probably hundreds of thousands of subscribers are missing. No telling.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, David, this has been a blessing.
So we're very thankful to keep our Rumble channel and FOJC strong and keep it growing, and it is. So thank each and every one of you for subscribing to the FOJC Rumble channel and to Visual Disturbance. The more people that subscribe to all of our affiliate channels, the more ability we have to keep putting the truth out. So thank you so much for that. And I guess we just might as well just put a ribbon on this with a big thank you to each and every one of you listening in tonight. Thank you so much. And until next Sunday night, going to be back on the YouTube side. It's going to be rocking and a popping. So y'all be looking for that. So until then, high five and good night, everybody, from FOJC Radio, Sunday Night Live. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.